The Philippines doesn't work for most men. Here's the one it's actually built for. Most guys who move to the Philippines are making one mistake before they ever step off the plane. They think the question is, can I afford it? Wrong question. The real question is, am I the kind of guy this life actually works for?
What kind of man are you?
You'll see a lot of men come here with plenty of money and leave miserable. And the guys with half the money everybody said they needed, they build a life they genuinely love. I'm Jerome Fisher. That's what my mother named me. My friends call me Fish, and you can do so as well. And after years of living here, I can tell you something that might save you a lot of time. The Philippines isn't built for most men. Now, before you start typing angry comments while wearing cargo shorts and dropping your BP medication, hear me out. I'm not saying most men can't live here. I'm saying most men won't be happy here. And that's not the same thing. And if you're sitting there at 11 o'clock at night watching another Philippines video instead of sleeping, there's a decent chance you've already been thinking about this for a while. Maybe months, hell, I don't know, maybe years. You've watched the beach videos, the condo vids, they live on 1,000 a month videos. Maybe some guy standing in front of a whiteboard explaining Filipinas like he's briefing the Pentagon on potential enemy combatants. You've seen all of it. But deep down, you're not trying to figure out the Philippines anymore. You're trying to figure out yourself. You're trying to answer one question: would this actually work for me? Well, hell, let's find out. First, let me tell you exactly who this is not for. And honestly, this part is easier. This is not for the guy who needs everybody to know who he used to be. You know the type. Every conversation somehow circles back to his title, his career, his accomplishments, his old house, his Ford Super Duty. Although, I did love mine. But I digress. You know, his boat, his ex-wife, his golf handicap. The Philippines is a terrible place for that guy. You know why? Because nobody here cares. Not in a mean, dismissive way. They just don't. The guy selling fish at the market, he doesn't care that you managed 300 employees in Ohio. The tricycle driver doesn't care what your LinkedIn looked like. And after a while, if your identity depends on reminding people who you were, this place gets uncomfortable fast. Eventually, you have to figure out who you are without all of that stuff. And some men never do. Hey, be sure at this point to slap a like on the video and also subscribe if you haven't already. It's also not for the guy running away from something. Debt, divorce, loneliness, a drinking problem. That'll just get exacerbated here. A life he never really built. That's just a fantasy. You imagine yourself getting off the plane, fresh start, new country, new life, new you. Sounds great. Only problem? You show up too. That's right. The thing that you're trying to escape is standing right there in the airport baggage claim next to you, waiting for the same luggage that you're waiting for. I know, kind of a dick move. I know. Why couldn't that part of you just stayed at home? I know I just said this, but be sure to subscribe because every video I make is going to help you figure out whether you're actually the guy that can do this before finding out the hard way. Honestly, the Philippines is a great place to build a new life, but it's a terrible place to hide from your old one. And here's another one. If you absolutely lose your mind when things don't happen on schedule, this definitely might not be your place. Now, don't get me wrong. Things get done, mostly, eventually, well, usually. But if you've spent 30 years believing every problem can be solved by making another spreadsheet, you're about to enter a target-rich environment. You know the guy that says he'll be there at 9? Maybe. Maybe not. Maybe 9:30. Maybe tomorrow. Go ahead and laugh, but I'm only slightly exaggerating. Some guys adapt. Some guys spend 4 years having miniature strokes over things they can't control. One thing for sure, you need to know which guy you are before you move, not after. And I'll say the one that always gets people upset. If the primary reason you're moving here is because you think young women are waiting to solve all your problems, I'm here to tell you, life ain't a rom-com, brother. I've seen that movie. You come in with the wrong mindset and that movie will not have a good ending. Now let's talk about the guy this actually works for. And excuse the voice, I apologize, it's a little thrash, has been for the last couple of days. Now, if you're still watching, this might sound familiar. The guy's usually not rich, never was, Grew up in a house where things got repaired instead of replaced. A house where people worked. A house where nobody was pretending. He understands the difference between wanting something and needing something. And that matters more here than people realize, because a lot of what breaks other expats doesn't bother that kind of guy. The wet market doesn't scare him. Simple meals don't scare him. Hell, I grew up as a kid eating milk toast for breakfast. Yes, it's exactly what it sounds like. It's what we had, and I loved it. Broken up plain white toast with warm milk poured over it and a little bit of sugar. It's damn good. I'd eat some now if I could. We couldn't afford having breakfast with the king.
I'm just on my way to breakfast. Will you join me?
Smaller house doesn't scare this guy. He doesn't spend half his life trying to convince strangers he's successful. He spent his working years doing something useful. Trades, military, law enforcement, maintenance, construction. The kind of jobs where showing up mattered. The kind of jobs where excuses, they just didn't fix anything. The kind of job where people depended on you. And after 30 years of that, something starts happening. You realize comfort and happiness aren't the same thing. And there's a lot of guys that never figure that out. This guy, he does. Another thing is he's done the math. The real math. Not YouTube math, not fantasy math. Not, I'd say, I watched one guy living on $600 and now I'm an international financial strategist math. He's the guy that knows what his Social Security will be. He knows what his pension's gonna be. He knows roughly what his expenses are. He's got a plan. Is the plan perfect? No. Nobody's plan is perfect, but he's thought about it enough to know where the weak spots probably are. And here's the big one, the biggest one. He's moving towards something, not away from something. There's a huge difference. Ask him what his average Tuesday looks like 2 years after the move. This guy who's moving towards something probably can answer. Yeah, maybe not perfectly, but he can answer. Coffee in the morning, walk into town, maybe work on a project, spend time with family, learn something new, building something, just live it. The guy who's running away, he only talks about what he's leaving behind. The bills, the stress, the traffic, the politics, the noise. Those things matter, but they aren't a destination. They're an off-ramp. You still need somewhere to go. And the men who succeed here understand that. And here's another trait almost every long-term expat has: curiosity. They don't need everything to work exactly like it did back home. They don't spend every day comparing. They don't show up and try to recreate America with palm trees. They see something different and think, that's interesting. They don't say, well, back in Michigan, nobody cares what Michigan did. And after almost 4 years here, I've noticed something. The happiest expats aren't necessarily the richest. They're not the guys with the biggest houses. They're certainly not the guys driving the nicest vehicles. They're the guys who figured out what enough looks like, and that's it. That's the secret. Not paradise, not beaches, not retirement hacks. Just enough. Enough money, enough comfort, enough freedom, purpose, and peace. You beat Nick. The guy this life works for has finally reached the point where he's not trying to win anymore. He's trying to live, and that's a very different thing. Look, clearly I'm not describing some perfectly enlightened monk sitting on a mountain somewhere, and I'm certainly not describing me. I've still got days where something breaks, somebody doesn't show up, the power goes out, and usually at the worst possible moment, but I say, hey, I guess it's God's way of saying it's time to take a little break. And sometimes the internet decides to take a personal day. Is my reaction always calm and philosophical? Not always, but most of the time. Sometimes my reaction sounds suspiciously like a sailor with a very profane vocabulary. I think you know what I'm saying. Growth, it's a process, but here's what I do know. If you've listened to everything I just described and found yourself nodding along, if it sounded less like a stranger and more like somebody you may have known your whole life, then the Philippines might work for you. Not because it's paradise, not because it's cheap, or not because it's easy, because you're the kind of man this life was built for.
Good answer.
But there's still a problem. They're always being the right guy doesn't automatically mean you have the right plan. And that's where most people get blindsided, because the holes in your plan aren't usually flagging you down. They're not flights. They're not the visas. They're not rent. They're the things nobody talks about until they're already, living here. And that's exactly what we're going to get into next. Because if you're serious about this move, you need to know where the real traps are before you buy the ticket. And we'll save that for another video, so stay tuned. But be sure again to slap a like on this vid, subscribe if you haven't, and give it a share to someone who might benefit from this kind of info. In the meantime, I think this vid might interest you, and here, let's see which one of my vids YouTube might recommend for you to watch next. Remember, always be excellent to each other, and this was never about the Philippines. It's about how you show up when you get here. Thanks for watching and your support, and I'll see you in the next one.